I'm with Lanham Associates, and I'm going to be talking about demand planning that runs inside of Business Central. So these are your presenters today, Tanuja and myself, with Lanham Associates, and that's what I do. Is I do demand planning for Lanham Associates, and that's all I do. All right. So demand planning runs inside of Microsoft Business Central. We're an independent software vendor, and the demand planning looks and feels just like Business Central. So you really can't tell where one ends and the other begins because they look so similar. So when we talk about forecasting, I want to talk about our mindset as how we at Lanham Associates look at forecasting. There are really two parts of the forecast. There's the part that's based on history, and for that we use the power and the strength of a computer. So that's how our system is designed. And on the other side of the equation, we have factors outside of history, and we use the power and the capabilities of people. So we design the system so that people can do what they do best. When we look at history, really history speaks to us when we go through our processing. We find that there's a pattern that history tells us that this item is forecasting this way, and you'll see what I mean in a few minutes. And actually, as it turns out, it's most of the forecast items that you have for most businesses. And we use something called best fit formula calculation, which I'll describe a little bit so you'll understand what we mean by that. On the other side of the equation, there are the factors outside of history, the market knowledge, those things that are going on in the marketplace where we really can't look at history to know what will happen in the future. This turns out to be a few of the forecast items, and they're involved new items, new markets, new customers. So anything that hasn't happened in the past where people and market factors are going on, people have the knowledge and can have input as to what the forecast is on those. And you would not look to history to tell you what will happen in the future in that regard. So when we talk about history, we want it to be good. So you think, well, gee, all my history is good. Well, you probably have some items that are going away, and you're not going to sell those anymore. So that history you don't want to use to forecast the item that's going away. But you may have an item that replaces it, so you want to redirect the usage from the old to the new. Or you may have a brand new item that's not like that is a lot like an existing item, but doesn't replace an item. And for that, you might want to clone usage. So we give you the ability to redirect and clone usage. We also give you the ability to say, well, I need to exclude this sales order because it won't happen again. It's not representative of what we expect to happen in the future. Or maybe you want to exclude drop ships. If you're shipping directly from your vendor to a customer, you can exclude drop ships. Or you may want to smooth usage. We have to give you the ability to say, well, if the current month is less than 20% of the average of the past 12 months, or more than 200% of the average of the past 12 months, I want to smooth the usage. So we give you many, many ways. These are just some of them to make history representative of what you expect to happen in the future. So I want to talk about best fit formula selection because that's how we do our forecasting. So if we think of an item, we like to have 24 months of usage, right? 24 months of history that we can look at. And in this example, we're looking at one item, and we know what we sold for the past 2 years. We can look to see last month what did we sell, and can we forecast it? So we might take a simple formula that says I'm going to look at 6 months, going LP2 to LP7, those 6 months, and forecast what happened last month. Then we compare it to the actual, calculate an error percentage, and we do it again. We step back a month and we do it again. We step back another month and we do it 3 times. You decide how many times you want the system to test the formula, because each time it comes up with an error percentage, we're going to look at all those error percentages and then do the logical thing. We're going to say, let's use the median error of those tests that we did for Formula 1. Then we go and say, all right, we're going to take another formula. And this time it has 8 periods. We're going to forecast it once, twice, 3 times, come up with 3 different forecasts, compare to each of the actuals, come up with a forecast error for each, and then take the median error percentage. The system demand planning that we provide comes with 18 formulas. You can add additional formulas, but it comes with 18 formulas. We're going to test each one of those formulas and calculate a median error percentage, and then do the logical thing. We're going to take that formula at the lowest error percentage, and we're going to use it. So that's the formula we use for that item until history changes, which is at least at the end of a month. It may happen that for some other reason. You may adjust history, or there may be some factor that changes history. But anytime history changes, we're going to go through this best fit formula selection to pick the best formula. So that's how our best fit formula works in just a few, just an overlook, a high level view. We also do some things to give you the ability to collaborate with customers. So we're going to do the same kind of thing where we take some items that you identify for a certain customer, a select customer, maybe not all customers, and say, I'm going to take the history for those items I picked, go through that same best fit formula selection, come up with a forecast, a working collaborative forecast, share it with either the customer or sales savvy person, and tell that customer three things. Here's what we come up with for a forecast. Secondly, here's the history of what you bought same month last year. And lastly, most importantly, here's the forecast number that you gave me last month. We have one question: do you want to change it? After the customer reviews that and makes their adjustments, it comes back as in a spreadsheet, and we import it back into the system. So those same items may also be sold to other customers. We're still going to forecast those with their usage and combine it with this collaborative customers forecast. So that way.
John, we had a question.
Sure.
Someone said that you've mentioned about the historical and the 24 months, but what, and again, this is specifically from a wine client, what happens if it's a new vintage and you don't have all of that historical data? How would it work then, and can the system handle that?
Yeah, sure. So as I just said a minute ago, we could clone usage if it's a lot like an existing item. We give you the bill. We give you a number of different ways, and I'm just going to go through, just a few of them. We give you the ability to set up a promotion, so you can say a promotion is really a way to say I'm going to adjust the forecast, and you can put in some numbers that say this is what I think the forecast is. Because if you have a brand new item, you probably have a plan for what you expect to sell, and that's a good place to start. Until you have some history, so that's the part where we give people their opportunity to use what they know to input it into the system. If all you know is history, then it's better to use the history. So hopefully that's a little bit of clarity on that.
Thank you.
Okay, so moving right along. This is a high-level look at our system. We really got two engines: a forecasting engine and a replenishment engine. I talked about getting good history. The system runs through those 18 formulas plus any that you may have added. It's going to find the best fit formula. It's going to use that. You could also take some items and do a collaborative with your customer. So you have that ability. We just talked about promotions. You could have a true promotion, right? And you could put some promotion quantities in, and we give you the ability to also, after the promotion's over, if you so choose, to have that history removed with the idea that this is a one-time event. So you decide. So we give you the ability to do things, to add things to the forecast using sales promotions. We also give you the ability to summarize the forecast, because yes, you may look at individual items and that may make sense, but what does it add up to? So we give you the ability to add it up not only in units, but also in cost of goods sold. So you can see it in dollars and say, hey, does this look like what we spend on an annual basis, either looking backwards, looking forward? And if it doesn't, then you can drill down and find those items where something is happening different than what you expect. And of course, you can make an adjustment, whether it be the usage for an item, or you can make just a forecast adjustment to add quantities in for reasons that you know. We bring the forecast over to the replenishment side. For those things that are kits, we're going to forecast the end item, and then we're going to use your bill of material and your minimums and multiples to call for quantities, what we call forecasted assembly quantities or forecasted production quantities. And we're going to explode those quantities to call for the components. For those things that you just buy and sell, we're bringing over a forecast, and we're going to look at the expected inventory in the future and say, well, do I have enough to last? And that expected inventory is at a specific point. It's what we call the lead time horizon. So we look at the lead time plus the vendor review cycle. How often do I want to review this vendor? Plus plus safety stock days. And we say if the inventory is negative, we're going to give you a suggested order. We also identify if there's any surplus. So if you're getting a suggestion to buy something and you have surplus somewhere else, you're presented with, hey, you have some surplus in this other warehouse, and you can choose to bring that in and use that inventory instead of buying more. We also give you suggested transfers. So if you're doing hub and spoke where you have inventory in one warehouse, a main warehouse, and feeding other warehouses, we're going to give you the ability to transfer inventory over using a suggested transfer, which I'll talk about a little bit in a few minutes. So on the replenishment side, we replan frequently. We're going to roll up the usage. So when we're planning at the hub, at your central warehouse, we're going to look at anything you've sold at any of the spokes, add that up to come up with a forecast that's inclusive of everything, so that you make sure you replenish it, whether that's assembly, production, or purchase, to your main hub, so you have inventory for all of your spokes that you feed. We're also going to, as I said, we're going to calculate dependent demand for those component items, and we're going to help you a whole lot by reducing the time you spend doing all of these calculations. Usually, we go into a situation where, without this kind of a system, people are spending a lot of time doing things with spreadsheets, and they're scratching their head and getting a headache and spending all this time, and it's maybe 80% of your time is spending preparing to make a decision, and then maybe 20% you're actually making a decision. Once you have demand planning, you're now in a position where the information is presented to you, and you make a decision about what it is you want to buy and assemble and produce. So on the replenishment side, when we're looking at hub and spoke, this is a diagram of hub and spoke. So these warehouse 1, 2, and 3 would be a hub, and so would warehouse 5. We're going to roll up all of what we sold to the hub and use that usage to forecast, so we have enough inventory for not only what you're selling out of the warehouse 1, the hub, but also what you're selling out of warehouse 4, 5, 6, and 9, because 5 feeds 9. So when we do that, we come up with, this is what you need based on parameters that you set. You may set a parameter that says, I'd like to keep 21 days of inventory, but if I get down below 14, bring me back up to 21. So the system's going to constantly look to see, do I have the minimum of 14 days of inventory? And if I don't, here's the quantity I need to get to 21. Then it goes and looks and says, well, do I have enough? I know how much I would like to send, but if I don't have enough, I'm going to look at every place that needs inventory. Let's say warehouse 4 needs the most, and warehouse 5 and 6 needs the least. But we're going to take a ratio of what their need is to what inventory is available to send, and we're going to say that's the quantity that you need to send to that spoke. So that's a high-level look at hub and spoke. It's about all we can do in just a few minutes. We have a number of products. We're just talking about demand planning, but now I would like to switch over to the system itself. Give me a chance to change some screens here.
John, we had another question. Someone has asked, what's the maximum number of items the system can hold or forecast on? Is there a limit?
Well, there isn't. We haven't found anybody that had too many items. We do have customers who have hundreds of thousands of SKUs to forecast. So we really have not run into we have too many.
Okay.
Let's see, you want to show a screen? Nope, wrong screen. There we go. All right, so now we're looking at demand planning. As I said, it runs inside Business Central. So this is where a buyer would spend their time. They would be saying, okay, what do I need to buy? And that's where they go, the buying calendar. Also on the screen is things like, here's the inventory levels at my different warehouses. I could drill in and see the individual items and see something about the inventory. Here's the history. This is a demo system, so I only have 1 month of history, but I would see a number of months of history there. But before I go look at what I need to buy, I'd like to just share with you, a little bit about the formula. So I'm going to look at, here's my 18 formulas. And so it's formulas that are simple, like an average of 3 months, 3 months with a trend, a 60-day formula, 6-month formula, 6 months with trend, an average, eliminate the high, eliminate the low, an average, eliminate the 0 months. And here's an exponential smoothing formula. So, and we go down into the seasonal formula. So you can see some are seasonal and some are not seasonal. Let's just take a look at one. So if we look at this exponential smoothing formula, which this one, and we'll just take a look to see what does it look like. So this is a weighted average where we're looking at month 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, which are past months, last month, 2 months, back to 5 months ago. And we're putting a weight of 3, 2.5, 2, 1.5, and 1 on each of those months to come up with a forecast. And you might say, well, why would you use that formula? Remember, we just talked about, it's going to take this best fit saying, I tested this formula and it had the lowest error. So it's going to test all of these formulas, and an item, when the formula comes up that says this is the lowest median error, it's going to pick it. So let's go look at, it says here, how many times. I only have a small database, but here's how many times that formula was picked. And if I wanted to, I could drill in and say, all right, show me all the items that, that the system assigned that formula. So look and see if this formula, or this item, we just look at one. This formula, it says it had a median error of 16.7. That was the best one. And so when I go look at the forecast, it's going to show me a time phase plan showing me inventory forecast for the next 12 months. So today, I'm in February of 2021, so that's my current month. And those are my forecast numbers by month. And if I want to see those forecasts, with a graph, I can do this and say, all right, show me graphically. Right, so now this block is the forecast, and this line, this thin line, is the historical sales. So I can easily see a picture of what is the forecast compared to actuals. So that's just a very quick look at a single formula. And we do things with, right, what you'd expect. We look at the forecast, and we look at our inventories, and we come up with, what do I need to buy? Here we can see my customer orders. I can drill in and say, well, with that 342, who are those customers? So I can drill in and see, here's all my customers that have open orders for this item. So now I want to go take a look at what do I need to buy, just so you get a flavor of different things. So here's my vendor buying calendar. So this is a list of, this would run every night, would be current, first thing in the morning. I'd look and I'd see, here's all my locations and the vendors that are associated with that. And I can go look and say, all right, here is this vendor I want to look at. I have 50 things I need to buy. And I could have set a target. There's a $10 million target. I could set targets with gross weight, net weight, and volume. Make sure that I hit that target when I place the order. So I'm going to go look at this suggested order. So this is telling me there's 50 different things I need to buy. So here is all those 50 things, the description, unit of measure, whether it's critical or not, how many times I sold it in the past 12 months, how many I need to buy. This tells me that there is a purchase order open right now. This tells me if there's any surplus available in another location, any alerts that I might have. Here's the dollar amount for that line. But if I want to see why do I need to buy 16,783, I can go look at my view forecast, and here it's telling me here's my forecast. I have these open customer orders. If I had a collaborative, it would show here. If I had any adjustments, it would show here. Here's my inventory of 7, and I have an open purchase order of 507. So it does the projected inventory, and it says at my lead time horizon, which is May 9th, I'm going to have negative 16,783. All right, and if I go look, And my lead time is 30 days, but I'm going out 30 plus 7 plus 50, so 87 days. I go 87 days from February 11th, gets me to May 9th. That's that quantity there. So when I order it, I'll get it in about 30 days. So I get it about here. I'm in bad shape. I only have 507 on order. So this is an urgent thing. But after I review each of these items to whatever level I need to review them to see any kind of detail, what's going on, why did it tell me to buy 300 or 98? Once I'm comfortable with that, I could make changes. I come over here and I say, create the purchase order. And bang, the purchase order is created inside Business Central. And that is now an open purchase order that we send on to the vendor. But this is meant to present, an intelligent story for these are the items you need to buy, and you can point and click to see why do I need to buy it, where is the demand coming from, what's my history, what's my open orders, is there a collaborative, and it's a good picture of why you should place the order. You can also do things like add an additional item down here. If you say, gee, I need to place an item, I need to add this item to the PO, you can do that. You can also buy it from a different vendor. Even though it says you need to buy it from Wide World Importers today, there's a way to click on, I have it here, an override vendor number and say, I'm going to buy it from somebody else. I can also do transfers. So if there's surplus, like here, there's surplus inventory, I can click into this and say, I'm going to take some of this inventory. So let's see, what is this? It says I have 58 pieces. I could decide I want to transfer it from another warehouse, and I could create a transfer along with the purchase order that I'm creating. So that's a very quick look at all that goes on with a suggested order. I'd like to take another look at something else, at surplus, because we calculate every night, what is surplus, and I'm just gonna, a lot of what we have, might make sense, right? Microsoft allows you to bring this to Excel. So we're gonna bring this to Excel. This is a, oops, I think I did this in a way, I brought it to Word. I meant to bring it to Excel. But there's a picture of my surplus. Let me do it again. Let me do it again. This time, I'll pay attention to what I'm hitting here and do it this way. So now, it's a minute. I'm going to see all the items that are in that warehouse. I picked one warehouse, and make this a little bigger so we can all see it. So now it's telling me with a picture I have $187,000 of inventory, of which $60,000 is good. So this picture here, and then 43,000 is surplus, and 100,000 is excess. If I want to, I can drill in and see, all of the detail. And so I go and say, all right, I'm going to look a little further on this, and I look down this column and I say, okay, well, gee, right away, there's $91,000 of excess on this one item. It's like this item, it's a motor, and here's my 91,000 of 100,000. I found most of it with one item, but you could do whatever you need to to look at this. Sometimes people will look at every month to see, is my inventory in right mix? Do I have the right inventory, or do I have some things that are maybe excess? So that's one of the tools we have. So I'm going to leave a few minutes for questions and stop here. I could go for a very, very long time. But by the way, when we do demos for clients or prospects, it usually takes about 90 minutes. So we spent almost 30 minutes just hitting some interesting, hopefully highlights that help you see what it is we do. but I'm going to leave a few minutes for questions if anybody has any questions now.
Yeah, we've had a question come in. So can you set the MOQ and EOQ by item and also by vendor or order total?
So we do support economic order quantity, so to balance inventory carrying cost and ordering cost. And so you can optionally use that on individual items. The system will support that. The minimum order quantity and multiple order quantity, we also support that. So if you say, whenever I order this item, I order 48 cases. So we can set a minimum of 48 and then say a multiple of something. And so all of your orders will be in those mins and multiples. We didn't talk a lot about assembly and production. I suspect there's probably at least some folks who are interested in that. I'll just go on a little bit for a couple of minutes. If there's any questions,
I'll feed them through as and when they come in.
Yeah. So if we go look at production, the system is going to create those what we call simulated orders to support the forecast of the end item, then explode those to call for the components. And the whole purpose is to make sure that you have all those raw materials available for you when you decide to make your production. So whenever I want to go quick, it goes slow. So here's my list of production items. So right here is, let's see, these are my simulated orders, my quantity on hand. And these are the released orders. So these are orders that you said you've released and say, I'm making this. It adds this up, 825 simulated plus 50, 875. So if I were to go look to see for this item, here's where I see, it actually is a component. This is a component. So these quantities, there's no forecast, right? I don't need any because I don't sell this. Okay. Well, actually, I do have a sales order here, but I don't normally sell it. And so I have 94 in inventory, but I need 108 and 134 to make something else. And then the system come up and said, okay, well, we're going to create, these simulated orders. If I drill in and see this, it's going to show me, here's my simulated, my production orders, 151. And I can go see there's a simulated one and then a released one. When I release a 50, then I can go and I can convert this simulated order to a released order, and if I so choose. So, and the whole purpose of making sure that we create these simulated orders for whatever it is that's needed is so that we can explode and call for the components. That's a very quick look at production. I said normally we'd have a lot more time to explain in detail, but the system is going to erase all the simulated orders every night and then recreate them to support your current need, all forecasts, customer orders, everything. So we have about a minute left. Any other questions?
So we've got another question back to the wine example. Can you have historical data by item but have a forecast made by a recommended order by item group, i.e. a set of vintages? Does that make sense?
Could you say that again?
Yeah,
please?
So can you have historical data by item, but can you have a forecast, make a recommended order by item group? For example, a set of vintages.
Well, you could actually sort of know that you can't come up with a group forecast, but you can add the forecast up and you can review the group of items together to make sure that they add up to a meaningful number. I suspect that someone wants to say, I'm going to make these 4 or 5 things, and they need to add up to a target quantity of some kind. So we give you the ability to add them up and make sure they hit the target, whether they be assembled or production or whether they be purchased. but we don't really support saying we can forecast this group. We can add the forecasts up to see what the total is, but we're not going to look at the combined history to come up with a group forecast.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I want to be respectful of your time, and I think we hit that 30 minutes.
We have, I said we've had several questions throughout. So I think that's time to finish. So John, thank you once again for attending and delivering the webinar and the demo. If anyone has any further questions, then I'll put them in touch with you. And likewise, if anyone wants a more in-depth demo, we can get that arranged as well. As with all TVision webinars, the link will be sent out to everybody who registered very shortly, and the transcript and recording will be available on the website soon. So thank you once again, John, and thank you everyone for attending today.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.